Good morning, everybody. And let me say a very pleasant welcome to our online audience and those persons who are joining us in person. And let me say welcome, a very, very big welcome to our Smarter Credit Workshop 2025, which is hosted by the JN Financial Academy. So a round of applause, please, for the JN Financial Academy. There we go. This initiative is one that is really, really good, and you're trying to make a significant impact, and you guys are to be applauded. So we come together today, ladies and gentlemen, with a shared goal, and that is to take charge of our financial futures by understanding and managing credit in a smarter way. In today's world, credit affects literally everything. It affects your getting a motor vehicle loan, accessing a mortgage, accessing financing for your business, and it goes the distance of even affecting you in terms of getting a property to rent, because they check your credit to see exactly what's happening. Ladies and gentlemen, because of this, you have persons who have financial setbacks and they don't understand what their credit score looks like. They don't understand what it even means, what the credit report is. So today, we are allowing you to get an insight into how you can rebuild financially and how you can come back. Because they say every setback is an opportunity to come back, right? I think I got that one right. So this is why initiatives like the Smarter Credit Day is so important. And through the support of the JN Financial Academy and our partners here today, we're making financial literacy practical, accessible, and most importantly, empowering. We learn how to read and interpret credit reports, explore real stories of people who successfully rebuilt their credit, and get tips from experts who work every day to help Jamaicans make smarter financial decisions. And that's something that is so important. So let me just say thank you so much for taking the time to join us, and get ready for a morning of learning, interaction, and most importantly, empowerment. Who wants to be empowered? Who wants to be empowered? Yes, I like that. And I hope the online audience is also ready to be empowered as well. So to get us started on a fun note, we're going to have a little warm-up, and it's a quick interactive game, and it's called the Kahoot. Everybody knows Kahoot? Well, played before? Okay, Kahoot is a favorite of ours at the Jane Financial Academy. So everyone, it's time for our Kahoot challenge. So I'm going to ask you, if it is that you're joining with your phones, tablets, laptops, whatever it is, the QR code is going to be on screen. But we're just waiting on my team here to get us ready. So the Kahoot, ladies and gentlemen, is really those who have quick fingers, and it's going to test who is the smartest or has the smartest financial smarts in the room. So get ready, get those quick fingers up, and we are loading and loading. Okay, so the code. All right, so we're loading the game pin quickly. Are you guys in? So the game pin is 7143645. So to repeat, the game pin is 7143645. So we're waiting on the participants to join. Persons having issues? So you can scan the QR code. All right, so let's try one more time. For the pin, it is 7143645. Able to scan? All right, so JB is in. Welcome. Is JB online or in the room? Oh, hey, hi, JB. We have Anto. Oh, great. Oh, Anto is scanning. So just to repeat, guys, especially for the online audience, the game pin is 7143645. We have 2 persons in so far. So to join, you're going to join at www.kahoot.it, or if you have the Kahoot app. We have 2 more persons here. We have SYD and Marsha J. We have Jer, nice. That's 5. Nice. Girly G, welcome. emoji, JJ. Okay, good. So the room is filling up. We have 8 participants so far. Everybody online in as yet? Waiting just for a few more persons to join. Okay, Shadi, Donette, nice. We have 10 people. And we hope that these 10 persons will stay. Same thing may I say, somebody fall off. All right, so is it Girly G who fell off? I think so, you know. No, she's back. We have Keddy, PBJ, Blessed, nice. So we have 11 persons. All right, so we are about to start. Okay, so we have 11 people, guys. So we're about to start. So it's time. So the quick fingers now. Busting Jamaican credit score myths. 3, 2, 1, and we are ready. Let's go. It's a true or false. You can only check your credit report if you are applying for a loan. True or false? True is blue, false is, I want to say that's pink. Hot pink? Or that's red? Oh, or red. So true is blue and false is red. So the question is, you can only check your credit report if you are applying for a loan. Is that true or false? So the answer here is false. And you can and you should check and report anytime. You can and you should check your credit report at any point, at least once per year. We only have a free one once per year. Who got that one? So we have JB in the lead. All right, good. Next. True or false again. Checking your own credit report lowers your credit score. Is that true or false? Ready? Remember, true is blue and the false is red. Checking your own credit report rather lowers your credit score. And the answer here is false as well, because personal checks are called soft inquiries and do not affect your credit score. So we're learning as we're going along. Who we have in the lead now? All right, Jay, maintaining. So we have Jerry right behind. Next question. Late loan payments can stay on your credit report for up to 7 years. True or false? Late loan payments can stay on your credit report for up to 7 years. What do we think about that one? Three, two, one. The answer here is true, because negative information can stay for up to 7 years on your credit in Jamaica. So I always say that this thing follows you like duppy, and not a lie. So we have to be careful. JB is still in the lead, Jerry right behind, just behind though, Emoji doing well, and Keddy and Anto are coming up. All right, nice. So the next question we have, having no loans or credit cards means you have a perfect credit score. Having no loans or credit cards means you have a perfect credit score. True for blue for true, red for false. Having no loans or credit cards means you have a perfect credit score. What do we think about that? And the answer here is false. No credit history usually means no score, and that's not a good thing. Next. All right, JB, come on. Both credit bureaus in Jamaica have the same information on everyone. Both credit bureaus in Jamaica have the same information on everyone. Is this a true statement, or is it false to say that both credit bureaus in Jamaica have the same information on every person? And the answer here is false. And the reason for that is not all institutions report to both bureaus, so reports may differ. And that's something you have to bear in mind as well. JB is still in the lead. We have MOG right behind. Anto in third. I think Anto is coming up because Anto at one point was at fourth. So congrats. Sid fell behind and Keddy is now at fourth. But this is still the top 5. Okay. Next question is, paying your utility bills on time always improves your credit score. Paying your utility bills on time always improves your credit score. And what do we have here as the response? 8 seconds to go. Quick fingers out. 4, 3, 2, 1. And the answer here is false as well. And that is because utility companies in Jamaica don't generally report to the credit bureaus yet. So I think it's something that is coming, but not for now. Can't say you weren't warned. Next question is, you can get your credit report online in Jamaica. This is an easy one. You can get your credit report online in Jamaica. Is that true or is that false? With 13 seconds to go. 5, 4, 3. Oh, all right, hush. So the answer is true. So because we're a technologically savvy and advanced nation, you can access both reports from the Credit Info Everyday Data and CRIF Information Bureau online. You can access the reports online. Next we have, all right, JB, continue. JB has not let go of the lead, so that's good. A higher income automatically means a higher credit score. This is also an easy one. A higher income automatically means a higher credit score. Is that true or false? All right, so in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the answer here is actually false because income level is not part of your credit score. Payment behavior is. And that's something that is very important for us to note. Next, we have, we still, Anto, you fall from second, no. So you need to put some pep in that step. Continuing, if you co-sign a loan and the borrower defaults, your credit score can be affected. This is so important. If you co-sign a loan and the borrower defaults, your credit score can be affected. What do we think about that? Some persons are saying true, some persons are saying false. Let's see what the final decision will be. And it's actually true because co-signers share full responsibility for the loan. And the sad part is that some persons have felt that in the negative way, so just be mindful if you are asked to co-sign on a loan. The final question, it's better to close old credit cards to boost your credit score. Is it better to close old credit cards to boost your credit score? This man a cut off him right now. And it is false. Because closing old accounts can hurt your score by shortening your credit history. All right? So how was that? So third in line with the bronze medal is Anto. Margot Emoji is second. And the winner goes to JB. Congrats to you, JB, and very, very well done. Did we enjoy that game? Did we learn anything? Did we learn anything? Okay, that's good, that's good, that's good. So we have now set the pace, ladies and gentlemen, and what I'm happy for is that this game, it was right in line with what we're doing today. So at least the information coming is not gonna be all foreign to you when the presenters get here and the panelists come on board with me. So that was great energy, and I want to say congratulations to our top scorers, and even a more hearty congratulations to JB. JB, don't ask me about the winning prize at the end, all right? Ask Rose, or... You've earned some well-deserved bragging rights. Now let's go a little bit further and we will dive into today's theme. So to set the stage for our discussions, we will begin with a presentation on smarter credit, building strong credit habits. And this is from none other than our very own Mrs. Rose Miller, financial education consultant at the JN Foundation. This session, ladies and gentlemen, will walk us through why it is important to build strong credit habits and also provide practical tips. And this is something that I want you guys to recognize, that we're giving you practical tips here today, stuff that you can live with, you can implement, you can pass on to people, on how you can create and sustain these habits, whether you're just starting your financial journey or rebuilding after challenges. Because persons in here and online, you fall in either category. Either you're starting out or you're rebuilding. And wherever you are, it is okay. We will help you to find a way. So I now invite Mrs. Miller to come with her presentation. Give her a round of applause and let her feel welcome, please.
Good morning again, everyone. Good to see you, and I wish I could see those online. Welcome anyway. And so happy for that energy just now, and we're going to move on, as Karen said. I was about to ask if you learned anything, but he did that. So I'm happy to learn that you have learned so far. And we have just started. So we're in our Smarter Credit workshop, and we're here to talk about now cultivating good credit habits. Who's interested in a subject like that? Yeah, man, hands up. Yeah, emojis online if you're interested. We have 2 objectives right here for the next couple minutes. So you'll understand the importance of good credit habit. Super, super important. And we also want to show you how you can cultivate that. Because what's the point of telling you do it and don't show you how? That don't help, not true? Yeah, man, we want you to know. First up, it is important because it will help you to access better loans and credit opportunities. And you know, I learned something last night which I must tell you. Not just loan and credit opportunities, but I hear that if you're going for a job, the employers actually check that out. Yeah. So bear that in mind too. So lenders will trust you, so you're able to access loans. It becomes easier as you apply for these loans. So whether it's a mortgage, a credit card, a line of credit, and who knows what a line of credit is? Because you need to learn today, you know. All right, so you all know. Okay, good. Bottom line, easier to access these opportunities. So that's one good reason why we should pay attention to that. Second reason is you get lower rates. We love that, right? Because we do understand the value and the importance of lower rates. We are forever bargaining. Can we get a discount? Yeah, and you should ask for a discount, all right? Strong credit it saves you thousands of dollars in the long run. So we want lower rates. We want to pay less when we are paying back loans, true? But if you do have a poor credit score, it's going to impact you because you're going to be charged higher rates. And as we said before, nobody likes that. It will also help you to have higher credit limit. Anybody ever get a call from a bank or an email that says, we're putting your credit limit up? That's because they trust you. Don't think it's because they love you. Otherwise, if that score wasn't good, you're not getting that offer. All right, so it gives you higher limits. And of course, higher limits really does give you more flexibility. So you now have $2 million to spend instead of 1. Sound good? Yeah, man, sounds good. Fourth reason why we should pay attention, it gives us peace of mind. Oh, who wants peace of mind? Put the hands up higher, man. Peace of mind. That's a powerful statement. Because when we don't have that, we have all kinds of issues. So when we manage credit wisely, we avoid late fees, high interest, debt stress, and something else that comes with stress is all kinds of illnesses. I mean all kinds of illnesses, from stroke to diabetes to heart attack, name it, when we are stressed. And some people get all kinds of pimples, not true? Yeah, we don't like that. Pimples thing, no. Good credit habit will give you confidence over your money. And we want that. We really do want that. So that's another reason why we should make sure that we are managing our credit limits. Fifth one is it helps us to build wealth over time. I want to focus on building wealth, but I also want to focus on overtime. Because wealth, people, is built up Say it with me. Over time. So anybody come and tell you we can build wealth fast, your antennas should be going up. Red flags happening right here. And if it's not happening, it means that you're not financially aware. Nobody can scam you. So we want to be building wealth, but over time. It's not a quick fix or anything like that. So we get better rates, better opportunities, the lenders trust us, and then we can leverage all of that to build our wealth over time. Credit is not just about borrowing. It's a whole lot more. It's about building trust, access to opportunities, and ultimately achieving financial what? Yeah, let's say that again. Ultimately achieving financial? We want to say it a little over there, you know. The people online saying it? Are the people online saying it? Because financial freedom is a journey that we're all supposed to be on. At different pace, all of us are at different times in the journey, at different places in the journey, but all of us should be heading there. So we want to be doing that. So those are 5 good reasons. So therefore and there are more reasons. But you know, we don't have time to do everything, so one of the things we stress at the academy, and I'm going to say it right now, learn something new every day. Hear, hear? If you were to live to be 100 and more, you will not, I promise you, exhaust the subject. So that's the first thing, learn something new every day. Second thing is, there is no point learning if you're not going to do anything with the knowledge. So take action. And the third thing is, make sure you share the information, because we're not selfish. So you're going to learn something new every day, you're going to take action on the information, and you're going to share it. We want to develop a movement of people who are getting financially smarter. On board? On board. All right. So the big question is it worthwhile to ensure that my credit is good? I see some heads nodding, some emoji hopefully going up online. Is it worthwhile to ensure that I cultivate good credit habits? And if you're saying yes, and if you're thinking yes, and the answer is yes. So we want to move on quickly. So we have the what are we doing? We are trying to ensure good credit habits. Why are we doing it? Because of all those reasons we mentioned before. So we get to which part now? We want you to talk to me, you know. The how, right? The how. Yes. How do we do this? Because if we don't know how to do it, we may just not do it. True? So we're going to rush to the how. So our credit score, you're going to hear that a whole heap today. That's the driver to credit worthiness. Our credit score is the driver to credit worthiness, because that's where it all begins. So what contributes to our credit score? We have all of those things. You mentioned it, we heard it mentioned already, our payment history, credit utilization, the length of our credit history, you heard that mentioned. You didn't hear a mix of credit types, but we're talking about that now, and recent applications. All of those things impact the final score that you will get from the bureaus. So how do we make sure our credit score is top of top? First thing, which should be no surprise to anyone, not true? What we must do? That's time number 1, again. Again mean we say it again, no so? We are going to pay our bills on time, right? And depending on the bill, if we do that, we could get whole heap of bonus, and you will hear about that a little more. But pay our bills on time. It contributes powerfully, importantly, to our payment history. So how are we going to do that? We're going to automate payments. It's time of technology now, so we don't even have to remember that we must pay the bill. Set up something automatically to alert us. Set reminders, of course. And we're gonna, if we find that we can't pay a bill, run into some financial trouble, because as they say, life happens. And it's happening every day to different people. Talk to the people who you owe. Talk to them, not hide from them. So we're going to pay our bills, first thing. Second thing is we're going to make sure that as we're using credit, we don't utilize all the credit available to us. And you might ask, so why? I mean, I get it for use? No. We are recommending the standard is between 30 and 40% of your credit should be utilized. Because people will think that you're under pressure. If you're forever using 90% of the available credit, they don't like that. All right? So if you have a credit card with a 300,000 a month limit, 90,000 to 120,000 is the standard. Credit utilization, a big part of your credit score. Third thing is the length of your credit history, and that was mentioned earlier this morning. The length of your history is important, so older accounts will strengthen your score. Older accounts, when it's there, they'll see how you have been paying and so on, and it will add credence to the score. If they have just 6 months worth of history to look at, they're not so sure about you. You could be doing well over the 6 months period, but no, sir. But if they have a year, if they have 18 months, if they have 2 years, they will be able to follow a pattern more accurately. So that's why we're saying don't close the old accounts. Don't cut up the credit card if you can't manage it. That's another story. Which if you come to our Smarter Credit course, you'll hear more about that. The mix of credit has to do with the types of credit that you hold. So we have some of them on screen. You can have an auto loan, you can have a credit card, a mortgage, a student loan, personal loan, or a line of credit. If you have different ones of these and you're managing them effectively, it will also contribute positively to your credit score. And we encourage you, don't just take a loan to build credit, people. If you need it, then you consider possibly a secured loan. And a secured loan could actually be like a credit card where you put down $200,000 and that is your credit limit and you utilize from that. And that will help you to build credit. So new applications, how will this impact your credit score? While a mix of credit type is used and is very useful to arrive at your credit score, taking new loans to improve your credit mix is not such a good idea, not for everybody. For some people, it can work. But for others, you may need to pay down some of the debt you have so that what they call your debt to credit ratio can be improved. And number 6 is limit hard inquiries. You heard about soft inquiries earlier. Hard inquiries. This occurs when lenders know, not you, lenders check your credit or your credit online to see what's happening. If a lender or lenders keep checking on you, it means that you're hopping around, shopping around ever so often, trying to get a loan. And if you are shopping around ever so often, it means that there's a problem. And that's going to impact negatively your credit score. And remember, we said credit score is the driver. And some might be wondering, so how this one takes so long to come up? You know, everything good with finances starts with a budget, not true? You all are not convinced. But believe me, everything good with finance starts with a budget. From the domestic to the national. Imagine the government get up one year and say them don't have no budget. You think that would be cool? No, sir. Mm-mm. And if you don't believe me, you can talk to Devrod later about that question. What if the government say don't have a budget? How should I respond to that? Yes, see him there? Ask him. So create a budget and stick to the budget. It's great to create a budget. That's probably the easier part, true? But sticking to the budget. Anybody here have an issue with that? I mean, you create the budget, but man, sticking to it, that's a major challenge. Yeah. But guess what? We have to be committed to this, eh? Yeah, we have to be committed to it. It's not going to happen if we just are laissez-faire with the whole thing. We have to dig really deep. But budgeting is one of the 4 tools we can use to get to financial freedom. So nobody asked me the other 3. Anyway, we're going to talk now about 5 other steps we can take to preserve our credit worthiness. The first one is, and you heard it, we're going to review our credit report. Don't make a year go by and you don't get this free credit report and see what's going on. Second one is dispute any inaccuracies. It is your credit report. If it don't right, check it out. Talk to the bureau about it. What's going on here? Dispute it. Third one, reduce outstanding debt. It is always a good thing to do that. Always. I know we all have dreams and vision. Anybody in here have a dream of being debt-free? Amen. I hear some amen. Any amens online? Yeah, man, debt-free is a good thing. Debt-free. Woo! That has a nice ring to it. So let's work on paying down our debt, all right? We have different methods you can actually use to reduce debt. If you have debt with high interest rate, it's best that you use what they call the debt avalanche method, which is paying off the ones with a high interest rate first. Because as you know, high interest mean you're paying more money. So if you pay that off first, you get rid of a whole heap of interest. But debt snowball is the other one where you pay the smallest balance first. And that is suitable for people who like little excitement early, because the avalanche can really take a little while, especially if you have a credit card bill of a couple $100,000, it's going to take you a while to get it down. And you might get frustrated. But with the snowball method, you have a smaller debt and you get rid of it and you feel good and motivated and you're moving on to the next one. All right? So all of that depends on you. But debt reduction is a big thing. We want to be using credit responsibly, so borrow only what you can afford to pay. You know, I don't think the people are going to lend you that anyway, more than you can afford to pay. I can trust them on that. And make more than the minimum payment. Again, this will help you to reduce your debt at a faster rate. A couple of things on how we can repair bad credit when we have it. We said earlier, consider getting a secure credit card. You cannot go wrong with that because you cannot spend more than you have deposited. Do not close all accounts. Practice good financial habits. So you're going to get the budget in place and you're going to stick to the budget. And for heaven's sake, we're going to build an emergency fund. Amen? What happens if we don't have an emergency fund? As soon as we run into a little emergency, where are we headed? To get a loan, back into debt. And that's not cool. Yes, that's a cycle. And sometimes it is so difficult to get out of that cycle. So build an emergency fund. In fact, build that fund first, because emergencies don't ask you if they are to come. They wake you up and say, I'm here. So deal with me, okay? And if we have no emergency fund and we have a problem, we're going to get a loan, and then we have another emergency, and we're in the same position, we get another what? And who knows that we can have several emergencies in a month? All right, so you see where I'm heading. And for heaven's sake, we mentioned this earlier, educate ourselves financially. Not just about credit and how it works, but generally. There's so much to learn. When our financial antennas are up, we're going to be able to spot opportunities that other people are wondering, how come him see opportunity there, so? But that's because his financial antenna was way up. So what looks like foolishness was an opportunity, and that opportunity was grasped. All right? So knowledge will enable us to make better financial decisions. All right. So I'm going to get out of here so you can have the real meat of today's session, which is focus on our credit bureaus. So get ready with your questions. Over and out. Thank you.
Let me say thank you so much to Rose for that presentation. I'm sure you guys have learned a lot. And there are a few things that she said that really stood out to me. One is she made mention that we are, by virtue of these sessions, creating a movement. And that's something that is so important because you guys now represent a fundamental part of that movement. And so you have to bring it forward. So whatever you learn here today, don't hug it up, as I always say. Take it with you and share from your churches to your family members, whomever. And she was going through things that you get from stress. And one thing Rosemary mentioned that you get from stress is a big back. Because when persons start to eat, you start putting on that weight. So I'm encouraging you guys to make sure you practice these smart financial habits so that you can control what you need to control. But yeah, we're going to be moving into the meat of the matter, and this is now the most anticipated part of our workshop, and it is our panel discussion. And it's going to be featuring some representatives from the credit bureaus in Jamaica, and they are experts on this. I don't think that's so far enough, but we just don't get too comfortable. But we have experts from Everydata Jamaica and Credit Info, CRIF Information Bureau, and they will help us to demystify what really goes on behind our credit scores and the credit reports, and how we can use that knowledge to our advantage. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, please help me in welcoming Mrs. Janice Knight Chung, who is the Marketing Officer at Everydata Jamaica, and Mr. Keith Parks. He is the Business Development Manager at CRIF Information Bureau Jamaica. No, you can stay right here. Mr. Parks can be over there. So you're the lily among the thorns this morning. All right, so our discussion will explore. First of all, give them another round of applause, please. Let them feel welcome. And I hope the emojis are going up for our online audience who are also making you guys feel welcome. So let me say thank you so much for being here with us. And our discussion will explore 5 areas, ladies and gentlemen: understanding credit reports, how credit scores are calculated, using credit wisely, repairing bad credit, and how credit information impacts banking and everyday life. So just for the sake of those who are writing, let's go it over one more time. So we're going to be discussing today understanding credits, or credit reports rather, how scores are calculated, that being your credit scores, using credit wisely, repairing bad credit, and finally, how credit information impacts banking and everyday life. Do we have that? Going once, going twice, sold. All right. So let's now get into understanding credit reports. So we're going to start with the basics, and we will ask our panelists to introduce themselves, and they will tell us their functions at their organizations, and we're going to start off with the beautiful Mrs. Chung.
Thank you. All right, I'm Janice Knight Chung, as you mentioned. Thank you. Janice Knight Chung, Everydata Credit Bureau. I know why you kept mixing up the name, because probably you're the former name, which is Credit Info.
Yes.
So that's
yes.
fine. It's a rebranding, same purpose and everything. All right, so at the Bureau, our purpose basically is to collect, store, and share data with lending institutions. Basically, institutions that are looking to assess you and see if you will be a good credit risk for them. So that is what we do at Everydata Credit Bureau.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Parks, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, all right, so thank you for having me. I'm from CRIF, Information Bureau Jamaica, and everybody always wonder what CRIF stands for. So it's the Center for Research in International Finance. Our head office is based in Italy. Jamaica is one of the countries that CRIF operates in. So our core business, of course, is the credit score and credit reports and ID verification services. Of course, we offer other fintech solutions, such as consultation, data analytics, and so on. So today I'm here to really just expound on all the details of what a credit score does and how it impacts your daily lives.
All right, thank you so much to you both. And just for my purpose, because when we go back with my team, we're going to be a bright. What does CRIF mean again, please?
Center for Research in International Finance.
That will be my opening line for my next sales meeting. Guys, did you know? All right. So we're going to be continuing. My next question.
Contracts do you have? Essentially, that is what the information will be on the report. And it is basically going to do an assessment that shows, as Mrs. Rose Miller mentioned earlier, your rating. So that is your credit score, your risk grade, and things like that that institutions will want to use to assess and see if you're a good credit risk for them to take on.
And when, just for the purpose of those persons who might not understand, when you say contracts, those are the loans that you might
contracts,
have? Okay,
yes.
all right, wonderful. Did you want to add anything to that, Mr. Parks?
No, she covered all the fundamentals of a credit report.
All right, great. All right, so that will then take me into my other question, because many persons are not sure if checking their credit report is a good idea. Some say it does not because it's regarded as soft inquiry, while others say it will negatively affect the report. I remember we had touched on that earlier. But can you just touch on that? And then also, how should credit reports containing inactive or dormant accounts be interpreted by financial institutions? So the first one, well, either one, Mr. Parks, let me just bring you into the discussion. Many people are not sure if checking their credit reports is a good idea. Some say it does not impact it, and because it was regarded as a soft inquiry. And some say it will negatively affect the report. What are your thoughts on that?
All right, so to clarify, there are two types of reports. You have your soft inquiry and your hard inquiry. The only one that affects your credit score is the hard inquiry, and that is the one done by financial institutions when you apply for credit. Checking your own credit score will not or should not affect your credit score. Additionally, in terms of what financial institutions view as the soft inquiry, when you're about to apply for a credit line, it's important that you know what is going to appear on your credit report. So we advise you to be financially smart. So before you go to a financial institution for your car loan, your mortgage, etc., you want to pull your own report, see if there's any issues, any incorrect information, for example, that you don't want to dispute before you apply. Because when you apply and they run your report and they see these things, it's only going to slow down the process. All right.
One follow-up question I have, though. When you make, say, for instance, somebody has made a number of soft inquiries, is it a case where these come up on the report? So when you do, say I have made, say, 4 soft inquiries, and I go to the bank and they're going to do their hard inquiry. Is it shown on my report that I would have checked it 4 different times?
No.
Okay.
No.
But the hard inquiries from the other institutions will come up.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
And I can understand the importance of that to guide in terms of, are you hopscotching from one institution to another? How should credit reports containing inactive or dormant accounts be interpreted by financial institutions? Anybody can jump in here.
Okay. So inactive, meaning that the contract exists, but it is not being paid?
Yes.
Okay. So institutions typically are looking just to ensure that payments are being made on active accounts. So what we would generally recommend is that attention be paid to the status, right? So the status of it, you want to see that the account is open, you want to see that payments are being made on it, but we also encourage institutions to look at accounts that have been closed, because historically, persons' behavior don't just change overnight. So even though I may have had a loan contract in the past, and yes, it is appearing under the closed status portion, you as the institution want to see how I behaved on that contract. Because if I don't have one now, it is still an indication of how I may perform in the future on whatever you're going to give me now. So we generally encourage institutions to pay attention to closed as well as open contracts.
I can appreciate that, because it is allowing the institutions to make a decision from an informed position. Because as you rightfully said, you know, just up and change overnight.
Right.
So whatever you were doing last year, it might potentially carry over into this year. So and it gives them an opportunity to have a broader picture of who you're dealing with.
Correct.
And what I wanted to ask, though, is there are instances where persons would make an inquiry because there's a contract that is on the report as being open, but in their knowledge it is closed. How do persons deal with those types of contracts, or those contracts that are on the report?
Okay. Typically, you want to dispute this contract, right? If you as the individual know for sure that it is closed, your report says it is open, just be gracious and remember that in most cases, human beings are entering this information. So it may be that someone made a mistake. The good thing, however, is that we have the mechanisms in place to correct that. So all you need to do is do a dispute. So you're going to go to the bureau, in our case, go to our website, you do a credit pull, and that is going to form a part of the dispute process. One of our officers will go through that information. Typically, they will contact you, and what we want to do is just to ensure that what you are seeing on the report, you are basically stating that. Now, one important factor to point out is that a lot of individuals on their report, when they see something that's incorrect, they typically like to go to the institution that holds it. We're not saying not to do that, but we're saying that's not the most effective method to use, right? So if I am at J and I'm getting a loan from you, you pull this and you see that I have something as outstanding, I say it's not. If I go to Bank A to say this is wrong and they give me a letter, I come to you and say, here's the letter, it shows that I am in good standing. You take that and you give me that loan. If I go somewhere else 2 months down the road, that information is still there. So we encourage persons to dispute it through the Bureau because we have the mechanism to ask this institution to investigate and correct where it needs to be corrected, or if it is that it doesn't need to be corrected and it was in fact true, because persons may lie, then we will get back to the institution to say the information was correct and you will go on as needed.
And that makes perfect sense because instead of letter here, letter there, correct the report, and that's the most effective manner of dealing with it. What I want to find out though is, in terms of the dispute, what is the timeline associated with, what's the SLA for correcting or responding to a dispute?
Sure. All right. So the stipulated timeline is 15 days, and that's calendar days, not business days.
So, and if it is that would persons be notified if something happens where further investigation is needed and we're going to be moving beyond that 15 days?
Of course. So the process, the cycle is you come in with the dispute. We have a form that you fill out with the details. We then communicate with the institution that you're trying to do business with. They will do an investigation and then return with a result. And then that result will then dictate if we scrub that information from the report or we leave it on it. Okay. And as I said, within 15 days, usually that happens.
Oh, all right. I appreciate that. Oh, by the way, to my audience here, you heard that noise a while ago? Gear up yourselves because we're not going to be outdone. So we need to make people feel so we're having fun as well. So get yourselves together. All right. So we're going to continue now with how credit scores are calculated. So what I want to find out here firstly is, what are the main factors that determine a person's credit score in Jamaica?
Okay, so this was touched on earlier. Yeah. It is basically the mix of the credit products that you have, how you utilize that credit. So you want to ensure that, yes, you are taking credit if you need to, but you're servicing those debts. You want to ensure that where you're making the payments, you're not just sticking to the bare minimum, so that's calculated as well. And you want to ensure that, of course, you're paying on time, which is the most important thing. So you want to ensure, one, you're paying on time, you're going above the minimum because, that is good for your credit. And then you want to ensure that you're taking smart credit. So just because you can get a credit card for $1 million, what's the circumstances that you are likely to use $1 million? And if it is that you get that credit card for $1 million, how are you going to spend that? Are you spending it frivolously, on emergency if needed, or do you have a cap that you know that you can manage to pay for the next credit cycle? So smart decisions.
Smart decisions, and that is so important because some persons, and I'm happy you touched on that point, not because you're being offered a credit facility means you have to take it. I always say to people, don't run into it for the fun of it because you owe somebody. It's not a case where you have some frivolous need or want and you say, oh, we can't get one loan here, so for 200K, 300K, I'm going to be taking it. Because you have that loan to repay. Right. And the thing about it is life happens and you don't want it to be a situation where when life is actually happening and you want an additional loan, you can't because you did the foolishness with the first one. So that's good. Mr. Parks, I'm going to turn this question now to you. Do all credit bureaus use the same scoring system? And what's considered a good score here?
Okay, so the answer to that is no. Each bureau will have its own proprietary formula or algorithm. So in addition to what my colleague mentioned, there is also a weighting that should be applied or is applied on our side. So, for example, the type of credit mix that you have. So a mortgage carries a specific weighting versus a credit card. And how you treat those facilities will all form a part of the calculation. So no, we don't use the same scoring method. On our side, I think the score goes from 239 up to about five something. It's like me. And we also have a three method approach to scoring. So we have a color score, a letter score, and a numerical score. And either one will facilitate, the credit giver, in applying a rating to you as the person applying for the credit.
And when you are looking at it from the numerical perspective, I guess the higher up you go, the better the credit score is. So the closer you are to that 500 plus.
Yeah, so that 239 would be the highest risk.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
right. And that would be a red. And you would have a rating of, I think, F.
Okay.
Yeah.
But one thing I want to point out, and I just want to touch that quickly before we move away. We have, as we said before, life happens, and some persons might have poor credit for one reason or the other. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't mean that you're less than anybody else. And what I want to point out is, being in finance, I can tell you that poor credit doesn't in all instances preclude you from accessing financing. It's just that the debt might be priced a little bit higher, because institutions are cognizant of the fact that stuff happens, you understand me? And so it's assessed on a case-by-case basis. And away from that, what you find too is the institutions also recognize that we have an opportunity to help you to correct this credit. So let us see if we can enter into an arrangement where we're going to be entering in a measured way. We might price the debt a little bit higher based on the presentation of your credit so far, but we will assist you to see what we can help you to achieve. So we're going to be continuing down the line. And so we are now asking about how we can use credit wisely. So it says many people co-sign loans to help family or friends. How does co-signing affect one's credit score?
So essentially, it affects you in the same way as it does the primary borrower. And it's important that persons know that, because sometimes you just want to be nice, you don't want to say no, but then you have to understand that there's a price that comes with, yes, if the person is not responsible, then that is going to be something that affects you. So I took a loan. I went to my sister to say, can you sign this for me? And she does that. Then I default on the loan. It is unfair that she's suffering the same way I'm suffering when I'm the one with the blame. But essentially, you want to ensure that you are signing for persons that are responsible, that you know that they will repay, and you do not want to have situations where you're left holding the bag, so to speak. So be wise about how you say yes to those decisions.
Okay, good. I always say to people, secure the bag, but don't be left holding the bag. Right. Do regular bill payments, such as utilities or rent, impact a credit report, Mr. Parks?
Okay, so currently the landlords and the utility companies do not report to us, submit data to us. However, the information is there. And at any point in time, this can change, and they will submit the data at that point in time. So the advice is that you try your best to use some discipline in paying your utilities and paying your rent, to make sure that in the future, if that data does become available to the credit bureau, it will be positive.
And that's so important because, and I think what this is showing us is that this thing of credit, it runs the gamut across every aspect of our lives. Because we're talking about utilities now, we're talking about rent, we're talking about loan repayments and so on. So it affects everything, and it only makes sense and it all goes well for persons to ensure that you are keeping abreast of what's happening. And that's something I want persons to be cognizant of as well. The fact that it is important for you to remain abreast of what's happening with your credit. And that's why you're encouraged to check it, do the soft inquiries whenever you can, because you want to know what's happening, and if there's an issue, you can report it quickly.
I just want to make a note. If you are very observant, like myself, or try to be, you would note that there are particular utility companies now offering credit facilities. Now, usually the story goes, if they're doing it on that side, at some point they're going to operate on the other side. So if you find let's say a phone company offering a card, not calling any name, they are using your credit reports to adjudicate if you should get a card or how much you should get on the card. So they are in talks with us, just the same. So at some point, the story is going to be the other way around, where they're going to say, all right, you need to submit a credit report.
I think the fact that these things are being done represents a precursor to really what is really to come. But just to be the devil's advocate here, and even though it's not yet in train, do you think this will help to kind of balance things out for persons? Because why I'm asking that is some persons might have, well, the metrics we'll have to take into account. I appreciate that. But say, for instance, you have somebody who is not paying so much or so well the current loans that they have, but JPS is paid every month, Flow and whichever is paid every month, and the rent is paid on time. Do you think that has the chance of creating like a balancing act for in the future in terms of assessing that person's creditworthiness?
It does, and in fact, this is something that persons have been calling for a while. That is provided for in the Credit Reporting Act. So based on the side that you want to cover, if, for example, somebody is risk averse and they do not like taking a credit card, like taking a loan, they took an auto loan, they pay it off quickly, you still want to have something that speaks for you on your credit report. And a utility bill could do that. So your mortgage could do that, your light bill, your water bill could say whether you treat financial obligations as if they're important, you are settling them on time, every month you're paying these bills. And so that could help in that scenario, especially if you do not have other credits to speak for you.
Yes, I can see that happening too, because, and you want to also look at it from the perspective where you are accounting for everybody. So yeah, you might not have loans or you might not have credit, but me pay my rent every month, me pay whatever not on time. So based on that, it can be inferred that the hope and expectation is that I will be paying these debts on time and in full every month. So that's a good thing. We're moving on now, ladies and gentlemen, to repairing or rebuilding credit. This is something that persons are struggling with. And as I said to you before, because I've encountered these persons, it doesn't make you less than anybody else. You might have poor credit for whatever reason, because life happens. But as Rose would have said in her presentation, if it is that you owe an institution, no hide from them. Find them if it's a case where there's a moratorium that can be discussed, a different payment arrangement, whatever the case is. But do not leave the facilities languishing, because when you go back, and it always comes back to haunt you, because at some point in time, you're going to have to approach the bank for a loan or something. And when you make that approach, you're going to hear say, oh, no, you can't get it because of X reason or Y reason. But how do we then repair or rebuild credit? And I want to throw this question to both of you. So what practical steps can individuals take to repair poor credit? So both of you, please, just give your insights into the practical steps that can be taken.
Okay. So the first thing is, funny, goes back to the credit report, right? So you mentioned about persons being interested in pulling their report. And to me, that is the first step. We always advise persons to treat your credit report the same way you treat your health. In fact, this is your financial health. So in the same way your doctor will say, go and do an executive panel every year to see what your numbers are, you want to see what your financial numbers are. So you want to ensure that you are pulling your credit report, right? You may know that you have been naughty with some of your payments, but how did this affect you really? So that's the first step. You want to know definitely by numbers, by risk grade, where you stand. Then you want to take the practical step of managing what you have and what you're going to get. So maybe you say, I have this credit card, I'm cutting it up, I'm not going to spend anymore until I settle these old debts. Maybe you make a plan with your institution, approach them definitely to say, okay, I took this loan, I was supposed to pay $100,000 every month. At the time I was employed, I could pay that. I've lost my job or I was ill, whatever the case, as you say, life happens. So in that case, I know that your institution will be, gracious to you, and they will say, okay, well, what can you afford to pay? Or they may say, all right, this is where we can put you. Can you afford that? And with that, now you're managing or you're making payments. So your report is no longer going to show that you had this $100 that you didn't pay, but that you should have paid 30 and you paid, and that is payment that goes toward rebuilding your credit. You want to also ensure that when you are taking out credit in the future, and maybe that is still there, right? So if you want to consolidate, that's a good idea. A lot of persons want to do that so they don't have their hands in many pots. They have one thing to focus on, and that's another way to do it. And then once you're kind of coming back from that, then you want to ensure that when you are taking new credit products, you're taking ones that are less risky. So maybe not unsecure. Right? So you do have persons will take unsecure because maybe there's less requirements from the institution, but also how it affects you will be the same. So it has that unsecure and it affects you more than a secured loan. So if you can go to a bank like Jane, let's say, and all you want is $100,000, and you may have thought of going to another institution and it's still the same $100,000, but maybe you wanted to take that as an unsecured loan, whereas JN will say, all right, we're giving you this as a secured loan, then that augurs well for your credit repairing process as well.
Thank you so much. Mr. Parks?
Okay. I always say it comes down to discipline. You have to be disciplined in order to try and maintain a good credit life cycle. But I'll be more specific and give you an example. So when you get paid on a monthly basis, monthly, fortnightly, calculate how much of that salary goes towards your expenses that you would use your card at the supermarket, pay bills, etc. Take that amount and use that as your minimum or maximum that you take off the card on a monthly basis, so that when the bill comes for that same amount, you're able to pay it. So you're basically paying more than the minimum payment, which is very good, because that shows that you are meeting your obligations, and you are regularly doing so. So your score will be positively affected. So things like that, specific for credit card management, can go a far way as to maintain a good credit report. The other thing I would suggest is paying your bills on time as much as you can. A lot of institutions, they have grace periods. Find out what is the grace period, because again, life happens. So oftentimes the timeline for a payment is the 30th of the month, but they don't really update the system until the 5th of the month. Find out, because a lot of the time people think they miss the 30th, and they just throw their hands up in the air and they're like, okay, I miss it. Next month, I'll try again. You probably have a couple days and didn't know. So that type of information can also assist you.
And I like that because you have Achilles people also do. If you miss, you still owe the people, so kindly go pay your debt. But what I want to ask, just for the sake of the audience, in case persons are wondering, when you make, so we're encouraging persons to make more than the minimum payment on the facility, but the minimum payment still protects your creditworthiness. Am I right?
Yes,
Okay,
but it's as the word says, the minimum.
Yeah.
And you don't want to always be paying the minimum. Because I give an example. A part of the calculation of your score also includes the amount of the percentage of the debt that's outstanding. Okay. So let's say you get that $1 million credit card, and you're always at 900,000 outstanding.
Because you're making the minimum payments. Yeah.
But you're making the minimum payments. Your score will still be negatively affected because you're above the threshold of the amount or ratio to outstanding to available.
I get that. Yes.
So again, these are the things help to, you need to know these things to help you to maintain a good credit report.
And a part of, I think also, a point that we can make here is just to, whether you're rebuilding or you're trying to protect or maintain, research, because the information is there. So it is important for us to read, get the information that is available at your fingertips, really, because in the same way you're going to be shopping around from one institution to the next in terms of interest rates and so on. Find out what obtains in terms of the world of credit. How is it that this thing works? As you were saying about the date, if you miss the 30th, you still have a few days so you can make the payment. Because find out what the little windows are and take advantage of the windows if there's a need. Because at the end of the day, we cannot go into this thing blindly. we need to ensure that we have the information, we have armed ourselves with it, we have done the research. And as I said, you can tell your coworkers, you can tell your friends, because at the end of the day, what we have to remember is, we said it before, we're creating a movement. You guys represent a fundamental part of that movement, and we thank you once again for being here. But it's just important for us to do our part, because a lot falls on us. We're continuing. Are there legitimate credit repair services in Jamaica, or is it something that people should handle on their own?
That's a tricky one. I know that there are some institutions that are really trying to focus on assisting persons to repair, but I think broadly, I would say no. I don't want to say they're not legitimate, but we do not really have established institutions here that assist you with doing that. So we would advise the individuals to take that on themselves, try and research, as I said, do the research, how you go about that, and try and repair your credit.
And no, you may chime in, Mr. Park.
All right. So additionally, I'm not saying that they're not legitimate, but the mere fact that they're going to ask to charge a fee to fix your financial state, that should be a flag for you. To decide whether or not you want to move forward with them. Additionally, I think credit repair is a DIY project. You are able to, only you know your story. Nobody, you can tell somebody your story and they fix it for you. You alone know your story. You alone know your business. You don't want to share your business with additional. Everybody have a business and you can share it to another. So because they're going to ask for a report as well. So they're going to be in your business. So I think it's a DIY project, and you should just try to, again, exercise some discipline. And it's not going to be overnight. No. You know, you repair your credit over time by consistent effort.
And it could never be overnight either, because if the information remains there for up to 7 years, then you can't just use one night and wipe out what's there for 7 years. But I like that, and the fact that you mentioned that it's a DIY project, and that's good, because at the end of the day, John probably don't even know your business. And I want persons also to recognize and appreciate one thing. Because it is a DIY project and it is something that is within the ambits of your control, it is important for you guys to celebrate when you guys are making progress. And I want you to remember this. So if you, and you see, because of your business, you will know what the little wins are. If your goal was set out to close out a credit card, and you see the impact of closing that credit card on your credit, and that's why you have the luxury of doing the soft inquiries, celebrate these little wins. Because in your own quiet moment, in your own corner, this is something that you are doing. This is something that is putting you forward, and this is something that is going to positively impact you in the future and time to come. So do not forget that, and it's a journey. So do not forget that, one, it is a journey, and two, to celebrate the small wins that you might have as you go through this journey.
Just another little nugget, because I like to help where I can.
Sure.
All right, so that card that you're using, you can specify to yourself, say, all right, I'm going to use this card only online, for online purchases. This credit card will not be used at point of sale. So cut it up. Cut up the card. However, you're going to register the card on your Amazon, and your eBay, and your Flow, and your what have you, for online purchases, transactions only. That also gauges the number of transactions that you use the card for, but you still have the card using, and you're still getting credit score applied. So that's another way you can help to, that can, especially if you have multiple cards. Yeah. So have a card that you only use for online transactions and not for point of sale. So and that can assist you with your repair or your fixing your thing over time.
To add to that point, though, I want to insert a caveat here. Me and say, we're not going to go to town on the online card. Because I have a friend, who he was having some challenges the other day, and he reached out to me in relation to, tips that he can. He listens to me whenever I share advice with him, and I think there was a limit increase offered to him on his card. I said to him, one, do not take the limit increase, because when you start by boxers, you don't have no sense. So may I say, you kindly remain within the limit that you have here, because when you start, go online or whatever. So we accept and appreciate the point, but remember that it's being done in a measured manner. And that is something that we have to remember with credit. You have to do it in a measured manner, because it is something that can go out of whack so easily. And especially with the credit card, I always say to persons, listen, it is one of the easiest ways to build credit, but it is also one of the easiest ways to tear it down. Because, and this is just something for your benefit, ladies and gentlemen, banks use the credit card to weigh and measure a customer's level of maturity and also your integrity. Reason being, the credit card is not serviced via an auto transfer or a salary deduction on a monthly basis. You have to either log in or go into the branch and make the payment on a monthly. Either you're going to make the minimum payment, which you're encouraged not to, or you're going to be settling the debt in full, you're going to pay half of it, whatever. But every month I can see where you have a credit card and the credit card is serviced well. It means, therefore, that you appreciate credit for what it is. You see the importance of it, and you decide to, here what happened. I'm not going to allow this credit card to go out of whack. So I'm going to log in on a monthly. The payment is due on the 25th. Let me go on from the 23rd, make that payment. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, the credit card is a revolving facility. So you use it and pay it, the money is available to you once again, but it has to be done within the context of a measured setting. That's what I want everybody to remember. We're going to be continuing credit and everyday life. So this is where we're going to be wrapping up this segment, and I'm sure persons have benefited significantly from this segment so far. But what advice, this is for both of you now, would you offer to young people or recent graduates to start building a healthy credit history? And before you touch that point, there's one thing I want to insert before I forget as well. I like the level of importance you placed on credit, where you said that your credit history is also like your financial wealth. Because I know the Ministry of Health, they have the Know Your Numbers campaign. And it's important when you know your numbers on this side of the divide as well, because you can keep track of what is happening. If it is that your blood pressure in terms of your credit is too high or too low, you can take your garlic and you moderate that, whatever the case might be. So that's something that, and when you gauge it and when you put that level of importance there, persons will have a greater appreciation for it, and they'll say, here what, this is something we need to protect. Because in the same way you need to do that executive each year, probably every January you start doing, you do your free check. You do that soft inquiry, see how I'm starting out this year. If it is that this might be the year when you're planning to access that mortgage, change your vehicle, whatever. At the top of the year, what are my numbers? So you want to ensure that you have that down pat, so that going into that year and going into that credit facility, you can say, all right, here what happened, Karen. I need to know, probably reduce this credit card limit. I need to ensure that these payments are, and that's a point too, and I'm sorry. Some facilities, the preferred means of repayment for institutions is a salary deduction for obvious reasons. However, sometimes these payments go over late. It's not your fault, but it's still on your credit. So if it is that you need to go bad up somebody in a payroll and say, listen, send over my payment quickly, whatever the case might be, just remember that, yes, it is not your fault why the payments are late, but it is your responsibility to find whatever is happening and try to correct that. Because remember, it's going to be adding to your credit and it follows you for a mighty long time. But just to close off, as I said, what advice would you offer to young people or recent graduates to start building a healthy credit history?
I would say start small. Don't be tempted to go out and just do everything at once. So a famous thing is that, you have left, let's say you've left the university, you're rewarding yourself and you're working now, and, you kind of want to go there and floss. You may want to get a car. You need a car because, that is something that looks good. But can you afford that car payment with your SLB payment and your rent and whatever else? Maybe you want to hold off on that. So I would say start small, whatever loan contracts you're going to take, start in small amounts so that you can repay them. In our case, the credit score comes on after 4 months, right? So in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, that algorithm is not going to be accurately predicting your behavior. After 4 months, there's a score on your report. So you want to take your time to build that up. So it says start small, take what you can afford to repay, and then you take your time and build up so that you establish good and responsible credit.
I like that. Good and responsible credit. I like that. Mr. Parks?
Yeah, for the younger demographic, the rule of thumb is avoid it as long as you can. Because once you start the journey, the financial ecosystem owes on to information. 7 years minimum, but it's an ongoing thing. Because even when a facility is closed, that asset that you have purchased, you're going to sell it at some point and then use it to get another facility. So it's really in terms of, on paper, yes, it disappears after 7 years, but the real life situation that the credit facilitated continues. So it's a financial ecosystem. But if you do need to get credit, get it for the important things, because you're more likely to maintain and be financially responsible with things that are important to you.
I like that. And these are good nuggets for, as it says, university graduates or young people in terms of building that credit history. And I like what you said, start small. And I'll give you an example. When I just left university and I'm from St. Elizabeth, so when I was moving back home to start working, somebody asked me if I was going to be renting. So I say, let me call and find out if my house burned down, because if it's still there, I'm going home, because I don't see why I should be incurring rent so early when I can go back to the comfort of my home and my mother go cook dinner for me at evening time and whatever. So that's a part of starting small. Recognize and appreciate what you have and work within the context of that. You don't have to floss one so early. You don't have to get the audience or whatever, because life happens. And it's better when you have a payment that you can manage, notwithstanding whatever might come up. So, say, at least me know, say, the 25,000 that is taken for whatever, for argument's sake, for whatever loan, I can manage that comfortably. I know it's going to be pulled from the salary, and whatever is left, I can meet my demands, and also I can ensure that whatever needs I have, I can still meet them. And if it's a case where something happens, we can still rally back and say, all right, here what happened, we have this, so, So that's so important when you, as you said, to start out small, and as you said, avoid it as long as you can. And not something to run up in. Because I always say to persons, see this thing called credit, a big people business. And unless you're ready to take it on, remain a child, because it is something that can knock you down. And it follows you. They always say when you put things on the internet, it remains. Credit is also one thing that remains. And because it's so interlaced and interrelated, and as you said, you have the asset, you're going to sell it, it's something that is revolving. So the credit card is a revolving thing. Credit in and of itself is revolving. So if you can avoid it, do so, but with the caveat that remember that not having any credit history is not something that is always good. So if you want to start out small and you have your little credit card or you have your auto loan or whatever, to be building some credit, that's not a bad thing. But it must be done in a measured manner. That's what's important for us to remember. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come now to the end of our panel discussion, and I want to say thank you ever so much to our panelists. I'm sure that persons would have gotten a lot of takeaways from it. You have a lot of practical tips that you can use to ensure that, one, you're using credit wisely. Two, you're also, if you're rebuilding, you have tips on how you can rebuild. And I just want to touch on the 5 topics that we would have started out, and to show that we would have touched everything. So we are understanding the credit reports. So do we now understand credit reports? Hello? Yes. Okay. Remember, I know we are competing against the other room. So do we understand credit reports? Yes. Look at, yeah, I like that. Do we understand now how credit scores are calculated? Yes. All right. Using credit wisely. Do we know how to use it wisely? Yes. JB, you win the people in Kahoot. You can give me a little. Oh, do we understand how to use credit wisely? Yes. There we go. Are we understanding ways now how we can rebuild or repair bad credit? Yes. Good. And we now have an appreciation for how credit information impacts banking and everyday life. Absolutely. Very, very good. So, Mr. Parks and Mrs. Chung, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing with us. Your insights have made a very vast impact here today, and the difference that it will make in terms of, because everybody here is spread across some aspect. Either it is you're starting out, you're in the middle trying to maintain, or you have bad credit and you want to repair. We have touched on every topic, and we now just want to say thank you so much for sharing with us, and we appreciate what you're doing. Continue to do what you're doing, and just remember that you guys represent a fundamental part of the movement that we're trying to create. So thank you once again.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, so at this point, we're going to be moving into some testimonials. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you so much. Let me realize, put on back your water. We now have the Q&A segment, ladies and gentlemen. Do we have any burning questions online or? All right. May I have your name, please? Marsha up front was listening, and Marsha notebook full. So we're not going to earn on a keep today because when Marsha finishes, listen. So Marsha, the floor is yours in terms of your questions.
A very pleasant morning, everyone. Thank you for the presentations. I have several questions. The first being treating with
Keyword here, ladies and gentlemen. Marsha has several questions. So
treating with inaccuracies. You encourage us to go the route of a dispute.
Yes.
I want to know, is it that the person who is disputing what's on the report will be required to give evidence?
No.
No.
Not evidence. So when you go on to complete the information, there are certain things that will be required for you to complete within the form. On our end, of course, we can verify that, and then we are going to contact the institution. So if, for example, you said, I paid off this car loan. Oh, sorry. If, for example, you said, I paid off this car loan, we're not going to ask you to provide proof that you paid off the car loan. Essentially, your bank has it somewhere. As I said, it's just an error, and then we will have that in the investigation that will come out.
Okay, thank you. What's the rationale for records being held for 7 years?
Okay, I'll take that one. So it's really the Credit Reporting Act and the Data Protection Act. All of these acts that are in place to protect, so to protect your information. The rationale is really that, or the thinking behind it, based on my limited knowledge, is that after 7 years, there is no further need for that data that will affect any decision, any future decision.
Okay. When it comes to someone improving their credit worthiness, let's say we know if you have a bad story, you're going to be, can still access financing, but at a higher rate. At what point does that improve? At what point does that change?
Okay, well, the repair process. So again, it can't happen to anybody. Life happens. Your credit score goes down, but you still need access to credit. You apply, they run your report. You're looked at as high risk. So they apply a higher rate, or they might just say no outright. But over time, once you're making the steps and taking the steps to get back into the good score, you start to make your payments on time, or there is effort. The effort is being seen. It will all feed back to the calculation, and your score will come down, and your credit worthiness will be repaired over time. So it's just a matter of time once you're taking the steps.
Okay, so you said over time, but is there
There's no specific time,
Okay.
no, because remember, we don't know the scope of the outstanding amounts,
case by
right?
case.
Or we don't know the risk that would have been assigned to you. And again, when one institution runs a report, and that's a hard pull, and it's bad, the next institution is also going to see that a report was run on. So again, it's over time, taking the steps, avoid hard pulls. At this point, you're not supposed to be applying for new credit. Therefore, you wouldn't have hard pulls being done. Again, taking the steps to make the payments. If you need to do a loan consolidation, in the initial instance, it might affect your score, but over time, it will affect it positively. Take the steps, you understand? But you have to start somewhere.
Understood.
I could just add to that, if I may. Just be aware that your scores change from month to month on your performance. So each month your activity is being reflected. So even though it will take some time, just be encouraged that positivity is happening month on month, and you can see that. Okay. So that typically you're looking at over time, but in the space of maybe a 3 to 6 months, you can see some improvement. So it depends, as my colleague said, on the severity of it, what that is, but the fact that there's positive movement, which also on our report will show on the trend. There's a section on the trend, and that will show. So just be encouraged by that as well.
If I could just chime in quickly as well, from the bank's perspective, banks typically engage in what you call risk-based pricing. So the person, you pay for the level of risk you bring to the institution. So in a case where somebody might be trying to repair their credit and you see where the debt is priced at the highest interest rate, so we are allowing you to access credit, but the debt is priced higher. What can happen is, say for instance, that was a debt consolidation, and that debt is priced at X%. But over time, you're making these payments on time and in full, and when you know are ready for, say, the auto loan, probably about a year down the line or so on, the improvements that you would have made in your credit, you'd have been in a position now to benefit from the lower interest rate that might be applied. Because at the end of the day, when we look at it, we say, okay, a year ago you were here, but today you're X place, and therefore your credit has improved. Therefore, you can benefit from the lower interest rate that might be applied to this thing. So it takes time, but at the same time, as Mr. Chung rightfully said, there's positivity happening in the background, and eventually you can benefit from that positivity. And even though it remains on the report, what the banks want to see is the fact that you have made an effort. So that's why debt consolidations are such a good tools, because instead of owing Dick, Tom, and Harry, you probably owe Miss Marva alone. So you're paying back this one person. So you're focusing on one debt on a monthly basis. And at that point now, your focus should really only be that one debt. So you're not supposed to take no more credit further down until you know that, okay, here what happened. There's a need that has arisen, and I now have to venture out into credit. Let me see exactly where I am at. And based on the consistency of those payments, then you can benefit from a lower interest rate eventually.
Okay, thank you for that thorough reply. I have two more. And then now when it comes to inaccuracy, so I remember you playing the devil's advocate and you're saying, okay, maybe this can change the game for those persons who they may have had a bad story with a loan, but they are on point with their bill payments. Could it be that if the bill payment is brought into the credit space, right, could that help? But I would like to ask on the other side, for example, what would happen if you're pulling in historical data and these facilities or entities didn't do a good job. Let's say there was a dispute that a customer had with an institution. How do we know that those kinds of things are accurately captured, so that if they were wrong as the utility company, that's on there? The customer is not poorly represented, right? What balance is there in that?
So again, that would go back to the dispute. Okay, so before we even reach to that, there are checks that are conducted when data is being uploaded to a bureau to ensure that there's a certain level of accuracy for what we call mandatory fields, right? If on that you're seeing that something is wrong and you have done the dispute, the process is that once it is investigated, it would be corrected. So your report is now showing the correct information. So if you had, let's say, gone to an institution and that's where you picked it up, when the investigation concludes and that's changed, that institution will get from us a free report with your new corrected information, and you will also get a report to show that that has been done. So that gives you the assurance that the mistake was corrected. When you go on henceforth, you're not supposed to be seeing that incorrect information on your report, which negatively impacted you in the past.
Okay.
I think there's one more question by Michael.
I'll leave it there for now.
Okay, so Marsha is finished. Do we have any other questions? Oh, nice.
Good afternoon. So we have about 7 questions online. Let's go through them. Some of them were answered already. So if we can have a brief response just to kind of bring things around. How do you start rebuilding a credit score? I wanted to get something from courts, but they said that they aren't a part of credit checks. And this was asked by Forgiveness Truly Official.
How do they start rebuilding the credit?
Right, credit
right.
score.
Okay, so we would have touched on this earlier, basically to ensure that they are now making the payment. If it is that they have multiple loans, to try and consolidate if possible, so that they're making a single payment, but making the new and reduced payment that they would have discussed with their institutions on time. They can start there.
Oh, just Chef, just to point out, this is something that I've seen in my line of work on a daily. And it was so surprising where persons are of the opinion that because the facility is written off, me can write it off as well. And I'm saying that's not how it works. You owe somebody. And somebody came wanting a loan once, and when I mentioned it, he was like, oh, but it write off. So me did think that it gone. I said, no, Papa. That's not how it works any at all. So just remember, and this is part of the whole thing where you left the facility languishing. So you want to ensure that even if it's a written off facility, go back to the institution, see if you can come under some arrangement, because even if it was written off 5 years ago or even beyond the 7 years, what you find happening is that it forms a part of the comprehensive analysis of who you are. And the fact is that you had a written off facility before, chances are you will do it again. So you just have to ensure that you nip it in the bud from early. But Chef, you can continue with the questions.
Right, and that also fed into Forgiveness Truly Official also asked, can time repair good credit? And I believe we got the answer to that. Viv Graham saying that I didn't use my credit card but was told I have to pay it, even after being told that the transaction didn't go through. Would this affect my credit score? Not sure how to take that, but that's how it was given to us.
Oh, so I don't know the amount that was the transaction was for, but let's just assume, as she said, she's disputing that the transaction went through. So she would file a dispute, and then the institution will make a final decision on it, and then advise the credit bureau if we should scrub it or if it's a valid concern.
Thank you. Girly Girl asks, do I have a right to choose who can interact with my credit information? Would the phone company have access without my permission?
Yes, you do get to choose who has access to your information, and that is in the form of a consent. In fact, that is the foundation of that whole thing. So nobody is really supposed to be accessing your credit report without you having signed a consent at some point. And importantly, pay attention to what the consent states. So if you are taking a loan contract, that institution is going to have access to your credit for the life of that loan. So if that loan is for 5 years, at any point in time, the institution can go in and pull your credit report during that 5 years. But the consent is the foundation, so you have to have that in place.
One question. Just a quick question. In relation to the consent, is it that a new consent, you're say for instance, you're with one institution, is it that a new consent is needed each time the credit report is to be pulled, or the one that is on file can be used as consent for the new? Say, for instance, you have an auto loan, you would have signed the consent then. 6 months down the line, you come back, you want an unsecured loan, but we have a consent on file. Can that consent form be used, or do we need a new one for the fresh facility?
Typically, what we find is that a lot of so the standard consent speaks to the life of a contract, right? Whatever that contract is. But we find that institutions typically try to incorporate a timeline in there. So some of us, we may see where our institutions from time to time come back to us to ask us to, they say they're updating their KYC, sign these documents, and in it may be a consent. But the institution can decide if it is that, let's say, you're a recurrent candidate for loan, an institution may not want to ask you 4 times for the year to do a consent, so they may say this consent will last for 12 months or something like that. But the standard one speaks to the life of the contract in question.
Chev, any more questions?
Michael Diamond asks, what is the most significant improvement or changes in the credit reporting sector since being implemented from 2011?
To my knowledge, there has not been any change to the legislation. I know that there is concerns. There are concerns being raised, for example, by the what's the institution called? The one that is concerned with when customers make a report of an issue. Consumer Affairs, right? Thank you. So the Consumer Affairs raised some issues the other day, and I know they would have brought it to the fore. They listed the issues that they are concerned about. So I know there's discussion around that, but as far as the legislation, I don't know of any change that was made to it from its inception.
If I could just add to that, so we would say yes, I would agree that there has not been any significant one since the inception. However, the portion of the Credit Reporting Act that speaks to the inclusion of utility bills, that was an addendum that came on about 4 years after the original one. So that is a kind of change. So even though we have said that the institutions are not properly reporting it, that was a change that was made so that we could incorporate that. So when it happens now, we don't need to go and change anything.
All right,
Awesome.
continuing.
Just 3 more. I'm going to make them quick. This, I believe,
Is Marsha online? Marsha's not online. I'm joking.
not that I'm seeing. Does more recent credit behavior supersede older patterns? And Lance Thomas is asking this.
It is not necessarily superseding. However, if the new behavior is bad, then definitely there will be an impact on the score, a greater impact on the score. Let's say you recently got a loan facility and it's gone bad within 6 months. That would negatively impact your score in the short term.
Thank you. Once a client, and I believe this was answered somewhat, once a client has discharged a credit card debt completely, when will their credit be restored? And can they get a clean report? And they can get a clean report, sorry.
Okay,
Go ahead.
I'm going to take this to mean that I have paid off my entire credit card debt this month. My institution is going to note that in the database, and when it comes over for the next month, then you will see that change on the report. All right, so today is what, the 16th? So let's say I make my payment today, the 16th. My institution, let's say it's JN, is going to do that for the end of this month, and when data comes over in the first week of November, by that time you will see that that has changed on the report.
But just to add to that, is it that they're paying out the card and closing the card account?
It says that it's completely closed.
Okay, so
they've-
right. So because you can pay off the card, and once you don't indicate that you're giving up the card, then it would remain on your credit report as an ongoing concern. But once you have indicated to the institution that you're paying out the card and you're canceling, you don't want it anymore, then as my colleague would have mentioned, that is what would happen.
And I think that's something that is important for persons to note. You don't close a card in your head. So even though you've settled the debt, you have to tell the institution that you want the card closed. Because I've seen instances where, oh, but me pay it off and the card closed. And I said, yeah, or
But-
even that. Cut it up and did not mean so the card
And
closed.
then when the annual fee, you get
There
a
we go.
you get a statement
And
with
then
the
that
annual
has-
fee.
I've
and,
seen instances where that has negatively impacted people's credit because the annual fee and then interest is growing on that. And even though in the grand scheme of things, the annual fee might be negligible, you have to appreciate the fact that it's there because you only closed it in your minds. So you have to inform the institution, or you only closed it with your scissors. Inform the institution that, listen, I have settled this debt and I want it closed on your system. Even go the distance and ask for something in writing so you can secure yourself. But that's something I want persons to remember. Shab, I don't know if you have any more
All
questions.
right, last from Brittany Lewis. How are consolidated loans typically reflected on a credit report, and how might creditors interpret them?
So when you consolidate a loan, essentially you are taking one loan to cover the many loans or however many you would have had. So it is treated as a single loan now. Going forward, the payments that are made on that is going to show for a single loan. And that is basically how persons are trying to manage and change bad credit history. So the answer is that it is going to be a single loan that they're seeing being treated on the credit report going forward. And they will see that the previous ones would have been closed.
But again, just to be helpful, and you know, when you consolidate some credits, right, and you're taking a few of them and make it one. Again, look at calculate in your mind, it's an additional cost you're taking on, because now the credit that you would have had up to that point, they're adding all of them together, and now they're going to lend you back that entire sum at an interest rate. So yes, it is good for you, because now you have a more manageable monthly payment. So it's definitely a good thing to do, especially in the short to medium term. But also bear in mind it's an additional expense you're taking on over time. So I would ask you to approach the credit fix as making payments over time on what exists. And remember, your credit report considers old credit, the length of time that you have had the credit facility. So when you consolidate alone, you're really closing those long-term credit facilities. And now you have one new credit, which is a much younger credit facility. So all of that, consider all that before you go straight into a consolidation.
And I just want to make a point on that. Well, 2 points really. For the debt consolidation, I always say to people, it must make sense. In that, the context, because the essence of a debt consolidation, it should be saving you some money. So your net income should be a little bit more with that debt consolidation. So if you realize where the debt consolidation is going to put you into even further peril, continue with what you have. You get what I'm saying? And also remember that the debt consolidation will see you starting over. So there are instances when in a 5-year loan term, you have gone 2 years. You only have 3 years left. But if you're to pay off that now with a debt consolidation, it's a fresh 5 years. So you're starting from scratch now. So it is always a good thing. But as I said, allow it to make sure that the debt consolidation that you're taking on, it makes sense. Because it must be beneficial to you. Because it doesn't make sense you take on the facility and then you hear say, next month, if I was paying 90 before, it don't make sense me paying 95 now. No. So it makes sense we continue paying the 90, and then if the debt consolidation won't work, then you go back to the drawing boards and you say, all right, here what happened now. May I have interest, I pay these debts that I have, so that at the end of the 3-year term that's left, I would have liquidated this facility and I'm now debt-free. I mean, I'll go back in that situation. So do your research, think and ensure that what you're doing is going to be beneficial to you in the long run. I don't know if you have any more questions. Not at this time. Marsha, you're good? We have to make sure that Marsha, I'm looking for a no, so we have to make sure. But wonderful. So with that being the case, ladies and gentlemen, and with there being no more questions, I just want to say thank you so much again to our panelists. It's been really lovely having you. Your contribution today is really invaluable. Thank you ever so much once again. So Mr. Parks and Mrs. Chung, Godspeed. Thank you so much. Take care. All right, so we are going to be moving things along, and we have 2 persons who have been waiting patiently. Done it, I've seen it on your face. But these are 2 individuals who have walked the journey, and they're going to be reiterating the importance of checking and reviewing your credit reports, and one will also be talking about repairing and rebuilding that credit. So ladies and gentlemen, what we're giving you now are real-life experiences. So you realize what you're getting today? The practicality of what was happening before. I know you're going to be hearing from 2 persons who have done it. They have walked this walk, they've done the journey, and they're going to help you know to say, this is what I have done, and what I'm going to be bringing across to you guys. So they're going to show you that discipline and education and support will help you to make that right decision and get on that financial journey and also become financially confident. That's something that we want persons to be aware of, that financial confidence is a real thing, and we want you guys to be benefiting from that. So our first testimonial will be coming from Mrs. Donette Price Thompson, and our second will be coming from thank you so much, from Devroyd Davis. I'll invite both of you to join me here on stage. All right, so as was indicated before, you guys will be giving testimonials in terms of It was rebuilding credit and also reviewing your credit reports and checking to see how important that is and what the impact that can have. So, Donit, I'm actually going to ask you to introduce yourself, and then we're going to go straight into your testimonial.
All right, thanks. I'm Donald Price Thompson, and I've suffered. I've suffered probably for like a few weeks, not long, with not understanding credit at all. And when I was listening to everything here, I was saying this should have happened 20 years ago, and I wouldn't get in trouble. And I mean, lack of knowledge, I tell you, really perish. So I've written down mine because a long, long time I just want it to flow, so I don't have to be going on and on and on. So I would call mine experiencing bad credit was really, it wasn't really bad credit. About 9 years ago, I found out I had bad credit, or at least that's what I was told. It started when I wanted to treat myself to a new car because I always have some little old cars and I always was spending money on them. So I said, my birthday was coming up closely, and I said, let me treat myself to it. I know I was going to need 100% loan to do it. So I did all my checks. I went to the loans persons at my favorite financial institution, and I went to ATL because I wanted a Honda from I was born. So I loved the prelude first, but I know I couldn't get there. So I just went down there and said, what's the cheapest Honda I could get that would put me in a Honda? So I got all my information. I get what the bank needed, and I went to the bank and I handed them in. So I did some research, and then everything about loan. I sit and I did how I'm gonna pay for it. And when I was checking how I'm gonna pay for it, I didn't know how I was gonna pay for it, but I was trusting God. As Christians, we just go by faith. I see a lot of persons go to university by faith and they come out, right? So when I handed in the documents, about a week, the salesperson called me and said, and what she said shocked me. She said, my credit was not up to standard. And I learned something here new today. I was saying, no, but I pay my light bill, I pay my water bill, mortgage come out of my pay. And I was looking at everything. I owed nobody as far as I was concerned. And today I learned that light, water, and those things they don't count when you're doing credit. So they advised me to go to the credit bureau. I went to the one in Winchester, Halfway Tree. And I was just there and telling them, complaining. That person had a hard time because I was just complaining because I wasn't happy. And I told them what happened, and they tell me what it was, and what the institution was. I'm not calling any name, but I said, and I didn't know what to do. So I went back to my boss, who knew a lot more than me. And he said to me, Donit, you have to dispute this. And he said, go and dispute it with the bureau, and let them look about it for you. And he was asking, and he said to me, do you have a receipt for that last payment that you did? And I said, yes, I do. And then I went back in time, and I remember credit cards were given away like hot bread. And the only thing to qualify for mine was to take your pay slip. So I did that, and I went to the company, and I got my $10,000 credit card. Of course, money was tight at that time, and honestly, I didn't have much financial sense, SENC, that sense. I didn't have that sense. So, of course, I maxed out the card and pay what I could, Every time they send a little bill, I pay what I could until I actually stopped. I couldn't do no more because things were just getting harder. I was a mother with children and all that, and I was like, I'm just going to take this one. I can't do it. And when I stopped paying, I realized it was the biggest mistake I ever made. And not so long after, they were giving away. They sent an email saying they're offering amnesty. I didn't even know what it means, so I asked my coworker, what is amnesty? And him said, then must give your money you pay off, you don't have that debt again. And I said, okay. And when I went over to this place to pay, because I wasn't far from them, if I paid $6,000 something from the 10,000 credit card, because I guess that's what I really, they would suffer if that is their bottom line for me. And I paid it, and I got a little receipt, and it was stamped, I remember, and I took it home, and I threw it into a little suitcase I have where you throw everything into. That was everything suitcase. And I remembered, and I got that receipt. I wasn't sure that receipt was still where it was. I searched, and I didn't see it, and I searched again until I found it. And I took it for the dispute, you know. And I was looking at, you have a credit card for $10,000, and that institution was saying I owe them over, I think it was 360-something thousand, but I know it's over $300,000. And I was wondering how it got there. So, yeah, so what happened was when I got that little receipt, that person, I guess they forget to put that information where it's supposed to be, and the thing kept building up. And I didn't know, because I didn't get a letter. You know, usually they call you, said I didn't get anything from them. And that's how I end up with that problem. So, you know, I went back to I think it was a bureau, and, you know, and I showed them at all, so, and they did their investigation. And I think about a couple of weeks after, I was informed that, you know, I should pay for another. I think my bank probably was following up because, you know, I don't know. But I know I had to pay for a second report. I paid for 2 credit reports, and the call came saying, you know, I'm okay, I can get my credit. So, what I learned, what I learned from this really is, since that, I learned that you need to check your credit report for at least 1 year. Because when I took that loan, you know, and I talk about credit and credit bureau, and when you talk about the numbers for your credit, I was like, but that only happen in America, you know. Foreign, Jamaica don't have all those numbers checking out and so on. That was where I went wrong as well. I didn't check to see I didn't know about this credit report thing, so I didn't check anything. I just thought it was something overseas and just went right into it. And because I didn't know, I got into trouble. Anyway, I got out because what happened was just somebody's mistake that put me in that position. And since that, I've learned to check at least once a year. I haven't checked this year. But keep all my receipts, no matter what it is. Just anything, any closing documents you have, you just keep them. Nowadays, they don't stay. You notice, when you get a receipt, it's gone. But in those days, they were writing so long. They were writing the receipts, and so yeah, I kept it, I had it. And also, when it comes to the credit card, I have learned to balance it with my bank book. If it's not in my bank book, I am not spending it. I'm not taking it off. You know, because the best thing to do, it's best to pay in full. It's best to pay in full, on time, all the times. And I learned that when I returned to my other job, because I was on secondment when that happened. And if I wasn't, probably Mrs. Miller would have said to me, darling, you need to check these things, because I was working closely with her. And when I came back, I started attending the financial literacy courses with her, and that's what I learned. I said, wow, I learned so many things till I started presenting it myself, and I became a believer, and I was everywhere with it with her, you know. So I want to say my story ended well, you know. Not everybody, because I still have that same car I want for my birthday, which I said I wanted to keep it just for 5 years and follow the rich people. But I realized that wasn't working. But it's here now, it's still in good condition. I only service it, so I just give thanks to God. And I think this experience has really taught me a lot, you know. And I will continue to tell other people what I experienced so they don't have the same experience, because it could have been different if that person never said to me, "Done it, go and follow up on it," you understand? Because I gave up. I didn't know how this happened. I gave up. I didn't know about the institution. I didn't know what is on that paper for our credit report. I didn't know anything. So I wasn't going back to say anything. I was going to take defeat. But I'm happy I didn't. And I just want to say, you know, make sure you put up all your documents, because you never know when you have to go to that old suitcase for help. So thank you.
A rousing round of applause for Donette, please, ladies and gentlemen. And, you know, Donette had me sitting on the edge of my seat. Come here, say, you did get the car or not? But then she did. Come here, say, did you get that Honda? But this is a real-life testimonial, ladies and gentlemen. And we see where just doing our checks and balances, you know, how that can impact us in a positive manner, because you would have been able to catch that situation and you'd have been able to correct it. But you have some persons who would have probably gone even longer and then them couldn't get the Honda in at all. So Walkfoot would have killed these people. But at the same time, you found out that, you know, you did what you had to do and you were responsible and it would have paid off for you in the long run. So another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Dominic, please. All right, so we're going to go now to our second testimonial from Mr. Devroy. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Devroy Davis. He will be sharing with us today what his experience has been like. So Devroy, the floor is yours.
Good morning. It's on?
Yeah, is it?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Again, my name is Devroy Davis. My situation was slightly different, but also more recent. So I unfortunately have all of the memories of it very close to my frontal lobe. But without getting into the full history of how we got there, what I really want to share on is the strategies that I used to actually come out of bad debt. So I'll tell you this much. There was a business involved, there was COVID involved, and there was about $4 million total, including a credit card of over $600,000. So that's the setup for how we got where with that debt. So it was 2019 thereabout. I started a business. It was going well, or so I thought it was. So much so that I left my original job, which was in the sciences and technology, and started this business teaching persons how to invest and all of that. Business registered in November. Fast forward 4 months, what happened in March of 2020? COVID-19. So the business shuddered. Nobody wanted to invest. Stocks were down close to 50%. And so the clientele effectively dried up. I had financed this business with about $2 million in unsecured loan, which was personally guaranteed by myself. And I had the credit card from when I just got my first job out of university. That credit card is a story in and of itself, and I'm going to share a little bit about that in terms of how it started out with $50,000. I was a diligent payer doing well. Financial institution sends me a letter to say, hey, we're doubling your credit limit, goes up to $100,000. I started using the card to kind of finance some of the business as well. Was, again, managing it. Financial institution doubled it again. So eventually we got up to $600,000. But with COVID, we had that debt of $600,000. We had the unsecured facility. So at the time, I was not in a formal job because, again, was running the business. But what I did throughout that period, whilst I was encountering the issues, was I maintained the communication with the bank. So I had letters going back and forth with the bank in terms of what's my situation, what is causing the debt to basically not be serviced. And so eventually, even though we had the communication, I just reached a point where I could no longer service the facilities, and so it ended up in delinquency. Keeping to that moniker, though, of just maintaining communication with the creditors, I would always communicate with the delinquency management team, as well as the persons that were charged with basically managing the facility after it went outside of the bank. And so I'd keep the communication with them, let them know as my position was improving, because I eventually got another job. And when I did that, the first thing I did was prioritize the loan. So about 70% of my salary I was using to service these loans. And that brings me to another thing, because what I also sought to do was to continue to improve my education around credit, because I knew stocks, I knew investing, but I didn't fully understand credit. And so that the experience kind of threw me into the whole world of understanding credit, understanding the credit report. And actually, since then, I've always gone for that free credit report that you get once every year. And it has allowed me to kind of keep a sanity check on where my facilities were. So as I continue to increase my income, I also did certifications to increase my qualification so I could get better and better jobs, which is what ultimately led me to JN. But whilst going through that process, I continued to make the payments and, in fact, increasing payments on those facilities until I reached the point where I was able to now start to consider consolidating the facilities. And one of the things I did in even deciding to consolidate them was to reach out to the financial institutions to say, here is my history of payment. Can we come to an agreement as to what the settlements would be on the different facilities? And so I was able to settle, I think the 2 million had gone up to 3 now with interest and all of that. But I was able to close one of the facilities, I think it was with 900,000. The credit card, I was able to actually close that by overpaying on it. And the other unsecured facility, I also was able to pay that. And so now I have a good credit score. I'm coming from a place where I had 0 as a score. Basically, the credit reporting institutions were reporting on those credit reports that they could not calculate a score. That's how bad it was. And so just maintaining the communication, prioritizing the debt, negotiating and keeping the consistent communication, being diligent with servicing the facilities allowed me to be in the position where I am today, where I actually have a good credit score, and I'm able to even access better facilities now. So that's my story, and those are the strategies that I use to basically get out of the road that I found myself in. I'll end on this, and it goes to the point of increasing your education. Credit, as you would have heard it repeated so many times throughout this seminar, is it's a part of your financial report card. So you want to make sure that you understand it. So even getting to the point where you can read and interpret the credit report for yourself is going to allow you to be in a better position when you even start talking with financial institutions about accessing new facilities. Because if you know your credit score, you understand the history of your payments, those are things that you can use to effectively negotiate better terms. And terms doesn't only mean the rate. It could mean the length of the payment and stuff like that. The last thing I'll mention, and it's something that really comes from the fact that I was overpaying on those facilities, well, in comparison to my salary, is that when I actually took the consolidation loan, I was offered the consolidation facility for 5 years. And what I decided to do was to actually take it for 4 years such that I could reduce the facility in a earlier or shorter time period. So that's it.
Trat? As I always say, story time on how Devroyd would have gotten himself out of debt. Now, this is the point at which we are going to compete with the room next door. Because based on these two testimonials, we would have gotten that opportunity and it would be warranted in this moment. So let me hear you give a rousing round of applause, a hooray, a happy birthday, whatever it might be for Devroyd. And there we go. There we go, yes. Listen, I sat here and I am truly inspired by both of you. And these are two completely different stories, but they're two inspiring stories. And Devroyd, all of what you've done, what you have been able to accomplish in that space of time, the manner in which you would have held on to your life, and you'd have said to yourself, listen, I'm mine, and this is my DIY project, and I have to take responsibility and I have to fix it for myself, it is really, really commendable. And I hope this is something that you celebrated as well, because this is not something that is simple. This is something that would have taken time. At a point, you were using up to 70% of your salary to pay down on these debts, and look where you are now. So I want to say commendations to you from the very bottom of my foot bottom, because you really deserve it. What you have been able to achieve, and not only that, what you've learned in this process is something that is invaluable, and you will take it with you to the end of time. So another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for these two wonderful persons. Before you guys leave, though, I don't know if there are any questions from the audience. Mr. Marsha, so I know Sir Marsha have something for us, but I want to applaud you, Marsha, for your interaction as well. We appreciate it and we welcome it. So are there, yes, a round of applause for Marsha, please. Any questions? Yes, Marsha has. Oh, we only have time for one. Okay.
I have one. Thank you so much for sharing. I want to know, when you set that 4-year timeline for yourself, did you accomplish the goal sooner than that, or you took the entire time that you had targeted?
No, I'm actually still in the process, because this was very recent. So if you think about the timeline, 2020 was when I got into the problem. I'd have gotten jobs after that. So I started with Jane in 2023, July of 2023. So I'm actually still in the process of clearing those facilities, clearing the consolidation facility. Yes, already. That's very important. That's a very good point that you make, because it was stated that credit repair does take time. And of course, it's going to be dependent on your management of the credit. But to go from 0 score effectively to know a good credit score, that took me 2.5 years, 3 years. But that was because of the prioritization of the facilities.
All right, guys, I want you guys to take note of the fact that both Devroid and Darnett represent a summation of all that we'd have discussed today. So you guys represent our summaries. So we are ending on a high note, because all the practicalities, all the measures that were discussed today, both of you really have put those into practice. And I mean, here you are today, lovely in the blue suit. This was a coordination? You guys are twinning today. But ladies and gentlemen, how has it been? No, them can't know say it was awesome. How has it been? I just want to say thank you ever so much for being here with us. You have been a wonderful audience, both in person here and online. Today's Smarter Credit Workshop was something that I'm sure you guys have benefited from. I want to also thank our partners from Credit, I'm going to get it wrong again, so I just have to read it. So we have CRIF Information Bureau and Every Data Jamaica. You guys were wonderful as well, and I cannot thank you guys enough for your testimonials. I'm sure you have inspired so many. And what you have done and what you have learned, remember you're part of a movement, share it with John Public. Share it with John Public. Allow persons to benefit from this. We have another Kahoot. That's the case, Omar? Okay, we have another Kahoot, so we're going to be ending with that. So, you guys have your phones? Okay. You know Kahoot? Kahoot. Oh, I guess you would have missed the first one. It's a game. Yeah. Jay won the first one. Yeah. JB it was, right? Instructions have been sent that you should not be winning this second Kahoot, so... Thank you. All right, so our game pin is 8810342, and remember you can join at www.kahoot.it. Or you can scan the QR code. So the game pin is 8810342. We're waiting on participants to join. We have one person in the shoddy. We have Girly G, Anto, Jerwin or Jertuin. Oh, Devroid has entered the chat. Come, guys, we have more. We had about 11 participants the last time. Okay, nice. We're going up now. 7, 8. Is there a 9th person? Oh, yes, we have 9 persons here. PJB has, I think this was PBJ initially. So we're about to start, Omar? Because we have 10 persons. All right, good. So this is for our feedback. 3, 2, 1, and we are running. Oh, it's a true or false segment again. The event was successful. True or false? So it's true for blue, what is it? Blue for true and red for false. So remember, guys, for this question, it's true for blue. So was the event a success? We have, yes, the results are in and we have true. So that would be Shadi. How would you rate the event overall out of 10? So would you give it 6 or 7? 6 to 7, which would be good, but could improve. 10 would be excellent, that's yellow. 6 to 7 would be red. Blue for 5 or below needs improvement. 8 to 9 in green, which would be very good. So again, how would you rate the overall event? And we have 5 persons saying 8 to 9, which is very good. All right, we like that. Oh, it was 2 questions, guys. So we have Anto in 3rd place, Girly G in 2nd place, and oh no, it's Shadi this time. Shadi this time. All right, so thank you guys ever so much for participating. And as we close, I just want you to remember that smart credit isn't just about avoiding debt. It's about building habits that create stability, opportunity, and peace of mind. And remember, you can't put a price on peace of mind. Remember to check your credit reports regularly, pay your bills on time, and borrow responsibly. Small, consistent steps can make a big difference over time. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, for being part of our Smarter Credit Day 2025. We encourage you all to continue to learn, I don't know what's happening here. Continue to learn, continue to grow, and remember that we are now members of you're part of a
Movement.
Thank you so much, Donnet. You are part of a movement. Continue doing what you're doing, and remember that as you make these smarter credit decisions, you're to share it with persons because you don't want to hog up the information. Have yourselves a wonderful day. Thank you so much for participating, and Godspeed. Take care.